Sora hesitated for a brief moment, staring at the offered hand. Then she took it. The moment their hands touched, a gentle wave of healing energy flowed into her. The pain in her side and leg faded rapidly. Her eyes widened in pure shock. He never spoke a word. He didn't use a single tome. "I'm Arthur," he said calmly, turning his gaze back toward the orcs. "I've never met an orc before," he added, sounding genuinely curious. "Can they be reasoned with?" Sora could only stare at him in complete confusion. Reasoned with? It was then that the 3 remaining orcs recovered. With guttural roars, they charged again, crude weapons raised high. Arthur raised his free hand. A shimmering blue barrier instantly formed around both of them. The orc's weapons slammed against it repeatedly, sending ripples across the surface, but the shield held firm with no sign of breaking. "I guess not," Arthur muttered. He raised his other hand. A small, tight barrier appeared around each orc's head, completely cutting off their air. Within a minute, the massive creatures dropped to their knees, thrashing desperately as they suffocated. One by one, they collapsed unconscious. Arthur walked over to each of them calmly and raised a hand. Ice spear. Sharp spears of ice formed and drove straight through their hearts, ending the fight for good. Sora watched the entire sequence in stunned silence. The casual, effortless way he used magic, without tomes, without chanting, without any visible effort, terrified her more than the orcs ever could. Her mind couldn't process it. The world tilted. She had passed out. The company of 20 Silver Griffin knights and 3 court mages had pushed hard. They were now only half a day's ride from the edge of the glowing forest. Unfortunately, they were deep in Goblin Plains territory. As night fell, they made camp in a shallow depression for defense. It was well after midnight when the attack came. Hundreds of waist-high goblins swarmed out of the darkness, a shrieking, chittering horde armed with spears, clubs, and crude bows. Their numbers seemed endless. "Goblins! To arms!" a knight bellowed. The camp exploded into motion. The 3 mages were rushed to the center, while the 20 knights formed a tight defensive ring around them, shields locked and weapons facing outward in a disciplined phalanx. Mage Aiden acted first. He pulled a glowing spell tome from his robes, channeled mana into it with his wand, and shouted, "Barrier!" A translucent dome of magical energy snapped into place around the entire group. Mage Valor immediately followed, unleashing a powerful fire spell. A roaring tornado of flames erupted around the barrier, spinning violently with the mages and knights safely in the eye of the storm. Goblins that charged too close were incinerated instantly. As the fire tornado began to die down, Mage Pike raised his staff and slammed it into the ground. "Rise!" Several large earth golems burst from the soil outside the barrier and began wading into the goblin horde, swinging massive stone fists and crushing any creature in reach. The defensive formation held, but the pressure was immense. One of the knights, breathing heavily behind his shield, shouted over the chaos, "How long can you keep this up?" Valor, sweat pouring down his face, replied grimly, "Not long enough." Aiden, visibly straining to maintain the barrier, said weakly, "We're going to need a new plan." Valor turned sharply to Pike. "Drop the golems. Build a wall around us with earth and carve a channel in the ground for us to escape through." One of the knights called out urgently, "What of the horses and supplies?" Valor looked around at the carnage, the endless waves of goblins and the exhausted mages. "We're not making it to the glowing forest." Sora jolted awake with a sharp gasp, sitting bolt upright on the simple bed. Her heart hammered in her chest as she looked around frantically. She was inside the cabin. Her staff leaned against the wall, within easy reach. The faint glow of morning light filtered through the cracks in the shutters. She took several deep breaths, forcing herself to calm down, then grabbed her staff for support and slowly stood up. Her body still ached, but the worst of the pain was gone. She steadied herself and stepped outside. There, in the small garden patch beside the stream, Arthur was sitting on a flat rock, quietly waiting. He looked up as she emerged and gave her a slight, gentle smile. "Are you feeling better?" Sora's grip tightened on her staff. She stayed near the doorway, still wary. "Why did you bring me here?" she asked, voice nervous but steady. "You passed out," Arthur replied simply. I couldn't just leave you there. He studied her for a moment, then added, You seem better. That's good. I wasn't sure if the healing magic would work. Sora didn't answer right away. Arthur continued, sensing her tension. I'm not going to hurt you or anything, if that's what you're worried about. Sora looked at him for a long moment. The fear in her eyes slowly shifted into cautious curiosity. But your magic, she murmured. Arthur tilted his head slightly. You have magic too, don't you? Wasn't it your lightning spell I saw earlier? Sora was quiet for a few seconds, processing everything. This man truly seemed unaware of just how abnormal his power was. Finally, she let out a slow breath and said, If you truly mean no threat, I suppose we can talk. Sora kept a firm grip on her staff as they moved inside. She wasn't ready to store it away just yet. They sat across from each other at the old wooden table. Sora took a slow breath, clearly gathering her thoughts, then began to speak. We are in the kingdom of Eldoria. The capital is Etherport, a large city with a castle in the center. She paused, then continued. Magic is a life force that flows through all things. Anyone can use it with enough study and training, though some people are naturally better at it than others. Sora reached into her pouch and pulled out a small sheet of paper, about the size of a folded napkin. Intricate circular patterns of glowing script covered it. We call these tomes, she said, holding it up for Arthur to see, or casting circles. We write instructions, spell type, power, shape, everything onto these sheets. Then we pour the correct type and amount of mana into them to activate the spell. She placed the unused tome on the table between them. Most people spend years in academies learning how to write proper scripts. If you pour too much mana into a tome, the spell can go wild, out of control. It's dangerous. Arthur listened quietly, absorbing everything. Sora hesitated for a moment, then continued, her voice growing more serious. The bright light that appeared in the forest, that was a summoning light. It's extremely rare. It usually means someone from another world has been brought here. Arthur blinked. Summoning light? I don't remember a light. There was an earthquake while I was lying in bed. The building came down on me. But I don't remember getting crushed. Maybe I was summoned. It had to be you, Sora said, her eyes wide. Only someone with godlike power could use magic the way you do. Arthur raised both hands in a small gesture, motioning to the humble cabin around them. I just woke up here, got attacked by that boar thing, and eventually found this cabin. Sora's expression changed. She looked around the small space with new eyes. You didn't build this. This must be the very cabin the Demon Lord was summoned to. Arthur leaned forward. Demon Lord? Sora nodded slowly, her voice dropping. 1,000 years ago, a massive light fell from the sky. It brought a man here. He became incredibly powerful, stronger than entire armies. He burned villages, conquered lands. Then one day, he simply got bored and disappeared. The legends say the Demon Lord we still fight today is that same summoned being. He returns every 100 years or so, bringing destruction and war. She looked directly at Arthur. So you can see why your arrival is terrifying. The last time someone like you appeared, it was in these very woods. Arthur leaned back in his chair, still processing everything. He gave a small, almost self-deprecating laugh. So are you saying I'm strong, or the next Demon Lord? Sora shook her head quickly. Most mages only have an affinity for one, maybe two types of mana. That's why we focus on the scripts we can actually use. We also need a staff or wand to help channel our mana properly into the tome. She pointed at Arthur. You can use every type of magic without a tome, without a staff, without even chanting. And the way you killed those orcs without speaking a single word. Arthur looked genuinely puzzled. How do you know I can use every type of magic? Sora froze. For a long moment she didn't answer. Her mind raced. Should I tell him? She had been spying on him for months, watching his training, his power, his casual dominance over magic that terrified her. He had saved her life, and yet the thought of admitting she had been secretly observing him made her stomach twist with anxiety. What if he gets angry? What if he really can read minds or control them? She swallowed hard, then decided on the truth. I've been watching you, she admitted quietly. her voice barely above a whisper. "For months. I saw the light that brought you here. I followed your trail. I watched you train. I saw what you can do. I was too scared to approach you until the orcs attacked me." She looked down at the table, gripping her staff a little tighter. "I'm sorry. I know it sounds bad. I'm not exactly a strong mage. The Academy called me a failure because I can't control my mana output very well. But you're something else entirely." Sora slowly lifted her gaze to meet his, waiting for his reaction. "Well," Arthur said, casually brushing past her confession, "I don't know what happened to the last guy, but 1,000 years is a long time. I'm sure he's long past by now." He raised one finger in the air like he was making a serious point. "Also, I don't plan on pillaging any lands or starting wars." Sora stared at him, then retorted sharply, "You said it yourself. You know nothing of this world, let alone our history." She gave him an angry, frustrated look. Arthur couldn't help it. The way her silver hair framed her annoyed expression was kind of cute. He had to suppress a small smile. "Why don't we team up?" he suggested. Sora blinked, caught completely off guard. "It could work," Arthur continued. "You can teach me what I need to know about this world and how magic is supposed to work here. Maybe we can figure out a way for you to use magic without hurting others." He paused, then added gently, "Even you." Sora sat there in stunned silence for a moment, processing the offer. The man she had secretly feared for months was now calmly suggesting they work together, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Sora hesitated, clearly unsure how to answer. Her fingers tightened around her staff as a dozen thoughts raced through her mind. Arthur, sensing her uncertainty, cut in gently. "How about this? Guide me to the city as an escort. If by then you're still not sure about me, we can go our separate ways." He gave her a moment to think it over, his expression calm and patient. Sora looked at him for a long time, weighing her options. Finally, she let out a slow breath. "I'll take you," she said quietly. As soon as the words left her mouth, a new worry crept in. What will the king do when he finds out about him? And another thought followed right after. Why haven't I seen any scouts yet? The kingdom should have sent people after that massive summoning light. She kept those thoughts to herself for now. Arthur gave a small nod, looking relieved. "All right, thank you." The cabin fell into a brief, slightly awkward silence. Outside, the glowing forest continued its soft, ethereal hum. Arthur and Sora made their way through the glowing forest in relative silence. Sora stayed a few steps ahead, guiding him along safer paths, while keeping a wary eye on their surroundings. After several hours, the dense, iridescent trees began to thin. They emerged at the edge of the Goblin Plains. The scene before them was one of horror. Hundreds, possibly thousands, of goblins had gathered across the golden grasslands. What were normally small, scattered packs that posed little threat to prepared adventurers had somehow formed into a massive, seething horde. Crude banners waved in the wind. The distant sound of their chittering and snarling carried on the breeze. "Oh no," Sora whispered, eyes wide with alarm. "This isn't normal. Arthur, what are we going to do?" She turned to him, her expression filled with worry. Arthur stood quietly for a moment, hand on his chin, thinking. He had been in enough fights since arriving in this world to know one hard truth. This wasn't a game. Every death here left a visceral stench and very real corpses behind. He considered burning the entire plain, but the thought of being seen as the next demon lord, or even just the man who set the world on fire, made him reject the idea immediately. "I could use wind blades," he said almost absently. "But that would be messy." Sora looked at him hopefully. "Can you not teleport us there?" Arthur shook his head. "Not unless I've been there before. I need to know what to envision. Unless—" He paused, looking at her. "You let me look at your memories." Sora cut him off immediately, voice sharp with unease. "Any other ideas?" Arthur held up his hand toward the goblin horde. "Armor car," he shouted. Nothing happened. "Worth a try," he muttered, the disappointment clear in his voice. Sora glanced at him, unsure whether to laugh or be concerned. Arthur closed his eyes, raised his hand again, and spoke clearly. "Earth Golem." The ground in front of them rumbled. A massive pile of dirt and stone began to rise rapidly, shaping itself into a colossal humanoid figure. The golem towered several stories high, its body made of packed earth reinforced with boulders and roots. Its glowing eyes looked down at them with simple obedience. Sora stared in complete awe, mouth slightly open. The golem slowly lowered one enormous hand to the ground like a platform. Arthur hopped onto the palm without hesitation, then turned and reached a hand down toward Sora. "You coming?" The colossal earth golem began lumbering south across the goblin plains, each massive step shaking the ground like a minor earthquake. Boom, boom, boom. With every footfall came the sickening sounds of screams, loud cracks, and thunderous booms as dozens of goblins were crushed beneath the golem's weight. The creature moved with slow, deliberate power, carving a straight path through the golden grass. As the nearest small village appeared on the horizon, a cluster of houses and farmland, Sora's expression grew increasingly concerned. She leaned over the edge of the golem's hand and pointed behind them. "The goblins, they're following us." Sure enough, trailing in the golem's wake was a chaotic scene of devastation. The massive footprints were littered with the crushed, flattened corpses of goblins, their bodies left in broken patches. And behind that trail came a massive, enraged horde, hundreds more goblins screeching and swarming after them, drawn by the destruction and the giant intruder in their territory. Arthur stood beside Sora on the golem's palm, looking back at the growing army of angry creatures. As the giant golem continued its thunderous march toward the village, Arthur turned to Sora. "Think the villagers can help defend their village if we fight?" Sora shook her head. "It's a small village, farmers mostly, not fighters." She paused, looking worried. "There's a guild hall, but only rookies come out here to fight goblins. I doubt there are many high-skilled adventurers there." Arthur's expression grew more serious. "Well, how do they normally keep the goblins and other monsters out?" "It's a small yellow stone," Sora explained. "Most villages have one, but they aren't meant for hordes this large. It repels monsters, but it's not guaranteed to keep them away." As they drew closer, the signs of a previous attack became clear. Damaged fences, burned-out buildings on the outskirts, and frightened villagers rushing to reinforce barricades. Arthur realized with a sinking feeling that the golem's path, and the massive trail of crushed goblins behind them, was bringing even more danger straight to their doorstep. "Sora!" Arthur exclaims, turning towards her. "Where is the crystal kept?" Arthur asked Sora, already preparing to act. "In the guild hall, center of the village," she answered quickly. "It's a bright yellow crystal with a natural low glow." Arthur stepped right to the edge of the golem's massive palm, the packed dirt and rock held firmly together by thick vines. He looked back at her. "Wait here. I won't be long." "Wait," Sora started, reaching out, but Arthur had already made up his mind. Warp. He vanished in an instant, leaving Sora alone with the golem. Sora stood on the massive palm of the earth golem, gripping her staff tightly as it lumbered forward. Her eyes were fixed on the village ahead when a bright beam of light suddenly shot upward from the center of the settlement, right where the guild hall stood. Her breath caught. Just then, dark clouds began to form rapidly in the sky above the city, stretching and spreading outward over the plains like living shadows. Then she saw it. A quick flash of something yellow, streaking from the town center straight up into the clouds. Several tense seconds passed. The sky exploded in a violent array of brilliant yellow light. Almost immediately, heavy rain began to fall. At first nothing seemed different, but slowly the effect became clear. The goblins started pausing in their frenzied attack. One by one, then in groups, they began frantically patting themselves, screeching as if trying to put out invisible flames. Their skin bubbled and smoked where the rain touched them. It wasn't ordinary water. Something in it was causing a severe allergic-like reaction. The horde broke. What had been a massive, coordinated assault turned into a chaotic rout as the goblins abandoned their attack and fled back into the plains, howling in pain and terror. Sora stood frozen on the golem's hand, watching the yellow-tinted rain fall and the enemy dissolve before her eyes. She whispered under her breath, eyes wide with disbelief, "What did he do?" If you enjoy these stories, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It'll help this channel grow so I can continue to improve and provide a wide variety of stories. Thanks for watching.